Yes. Subha ma'am?
That's
Yes, you can. Subha ma'am?
I'm unmuting. 1 second.
Yes.
Good evening, one and all present here. We cordially invite Dr. Maya for this session, having accepted for this session. It is wonderful to have you here, Dr. Maya. And she is a super senior in my college, and she is well renowned in this dyslexia field because she gives a lot of personal experience, stories, and related case studies whenever I discuss with her with regarding to LD. And I am really happy to have you here. And I welcome all the participants who have been with us traveling throughout for all the webinar. Now we are venturing into, we are closely nearing to 70. We feel very happy, and we are also immensely, positively engaged and energetic towards the journey towards the 100 to 1. And before that, I would like to make the big thanks to my own team members. The Suresh, who is the team lead, who is actually an brainchild of this particular program. He was the person who really wanted to have this, he started, the seed is from his side. And we all, actually joined together. I'm Dr. Subhashri from Madras School of Social Work. We have Dr. Veena, who's actually an official MC for this program, coordinating for so many days without any hindrance. She's actually basically a homeopathic and also a psychologist and working for physiotherapist in teaching psychology for them. And also we have Mr. Krishnan, who's been into this field, and he's the trainer and who's also into psychology for a quite long period, and he has come to psychology because of his passion he has identified, and he's working for that cause also. And immensely happy to have the youngsters among in our team. We have Ekta, who's a technical supporter and who's also a psychology student who really wants to willingly participate and learn and as well as contribute. So she is along with us in this team. And we have Dr. Chandra, who's totally a different field. She is from agriculture, but she feels psychology is for everyone. So she is with us in this team. And we also have the other members like Ananya. I think Suresh, the other two persons, can you just mention? And also their contribution throughout these sessions are immensely significant. That's why we are running this, hassle free. And I would also mention that participants who are enthusiastically every day cheering up with your encouragement and positive note, and as well as your own suggestions for other topics, is keep us going. This momentum should keep on going, because something which is good is happening. We all have to really be supportive for the cause. Over to you, Suresh.
So one more person, I think Madam was not mentioned, Ms. Bharati, Jaya Bharati is an in charge for the e-certificate and the documentation. Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Dr. Chandra to introduce the resource person, followed by Mr. Krishnan for topics.
Hello.
Yes, Chandra.
Hi, ma'am. Nice to have you here. Dear participants, I would like to introduce Dr. Maya, who is a resource person for this topic today. And she is an associate professor in Vellore Institute of Technology in Chennai. She has been researching in areas of educational psychology, social psychology, and neurocognitive psychology and disability studies. She has also published papers in renowned international journals. And also she has been successful in getting projects from both state and central government. She has been a performer in her educational career and also in academic career. So we are very proud to have you here, ma'am, and we are very happy to listen to your insights and experience. Once again, I welcome you all on behalf of everyone. Thank you.
Unmute.
start.
Good. Friends, we would like you to enjoy the session, for which we request you to keep your mic on mute mode, so that there is no disturbance happen during the session when ma'am is taking the class. And because it is going to be very enriching experience we are going to have. So it will not disturb her her flow, as well as people who are listening to the session, they are also not getting disturbed. You will be given chance to ask questions after the session. So keep your questions ready, and you can also post your questions in my webinar feedback at gmail.com, and even the chat box you can post your questions, and it will be queued and it will be asked to ma'am if you are not getting a chance. And otherwise, please raise your hand. You will be asked in queue, you will be asked to talk to Dr. Maya. So it is going to be a great session, and please enjoy, sit back, and enrich your knowledge. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, now we can take over this and share your knowledge.
I can start, sir. Good evening, everybody. First, I want to thank you for this opportunity for letting me participate and be an expert on this topic. This topic is very, very dear to me, and you will know it as the session goes on. So, first and foremost, we have all been talking about learning disability. And learning disability, all of us all the time discuss about how can we improve their academic skill, how can we improve their spelling, their handwriting. I mean, this is always a concern of the school and the parent or everybody who's saying, oh, how does he do in school? What marks does he get? But you should understand that a dyslexic child has suffering something more than a normal child, and what it is, we'll try to understand. To briefly tell you what is dyslexia, because I think most of you know it here, just to brief about it, here it is nothing but a learning disability. So the learning disability could be either in reading, writing, spelling, sometimes in sequencing, sometimes in mathematical calculations. So we have different names for it called dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and all those things, which I'm not going to talk about in detail because my concern is understanding the mental health of a dyslexic child. Because all this, I think we have already had a session where somebody has spoken about it also. And now let us try to find out what could be a cause of dyslexia. First and foremost, the cause could be genetic, or it could be just that there could be some kind of problem during childbirth, or it could be due to some trauma, head injury, infection, or some toxins. Sometimes we also come across cases when some people are given medications. I know a very good case where the child was given Epival for epilepsy. Slowly the child has developed dyslexia, and we were talking to the doctors. They said once the medicine is weaned off, the effect of that would also go. So we really don't know the cause of dyslexia. So, but what is unfortunate is this is a kind of disorder which is not exposed, in the sense, for example, if you're blind, if you're deaf, if you have any other kind of difficulty, that is something where people can obviously see it. But here the child is bright, child is chirpy, child is doing everything that you can think of, but he's not having some difficulty in learning. So it's not the question of we are asking or seeking for sympathy from people. We are only seeking for people to understand that this child is normal in every other way, but it has some difficulty in trying to learn or trying to do his academic work. So now let us go on to find out what are the problems that a child faces. So first and foremost, I want to tell you that when a child goes to school, even the parent is very encouraged, very happy, and then he says, okay, let's go to school, first day to school, all that is very fine. So the first 1 year when the child goes to preschool, everything seems fine because their still reading or writing or spelling hasn't started. So the child and the parent are very, very happy. The next stage comes is when the child goes maybe to the first grade. Here what happens is, slowly they try to realize that this child is very bright in class, answers in class, speaks well in class, but he's not writing. But he has some spelling mistake or there is some kind of abnormality. So first few indications that I would like to share with you is that not that all these indications are something that is going to be conclusive for dyslexia, but lots of research have said that few symptoms that children with dyslexia exhibit is simple they're not able to know left and right. They will say left, but they show the right hand. They will have difficulty in learning colors. Then they'll have difficulty in tying shoelace, buttoning their shirts. Or these are small things, but I'm again telling you, this is not conclusive. These kind of indications are there. Then after that, what happens is this child is going to preschool and he's happy going and there's no problem till then. When he comes to first standard, the thing is, there's no problem. As I want to very simply tell you, these children have only one thing. Please teach the way I can learn. It is not that I cannot learn. You teach me the way I can learn. The problem is not with the child. The problem is with the method a teacher or a special educator should cater to teach the child. Okay, now let me go on to tell you next thing is, these children, each one is unique. Each one's needs are different. Each one behaves differently on different days. So here, even we normal people have such problems. So these children have more problems and we will try to understand each thing one by one. So one thing that I would like to tell you is that they experience difficulty in reading and further in language function. When I say language function, it could be comprehension. It could be, for example, spelling, writing, and it also could be that these children have, usually we talk about reversal of alphabets, then you talk about the way they pronounce, because these people, these children have a lot of things that's happening. See, what I have understood is, during the process of, during the learning, whatever the problem is during them when they're studying is, I have an experience where we took a child where to test whether he has some problem in vision. Vision was perfect. Intelligence was great. Then where is the problem? He can see, he's bright, then where is the problem? Then we started to understand, we found that the problem comes when after the stimuli goes through the eyes to the brain, and that which has to be read or spelled or written, that time, during that process of transformation of the visual stimuli to language processes, there is a difficulty. So this is what we have to address. So it is not that it is something that is very major. It is something that which can be, with a good support, with good encouragement, we will be able to try to help them out. Okay, now this is the actual problem. Now what are the different problems that they have when they go to school, or even, you please understand, dyslexic people remain dyslexic till the end, in the sense that they have this problem, and I'll try to tell you as they grow what happens. So I just want to go through the journey of the child who is dyslexic, and as and when the problem comes, I will discuss. So this child goes to school, and what happens is, in school, identification may be delayed. The point is, there are few schools which are able to understand that this child is having a difficulty. There are some schools or some teachers who are not trained. I don't blame them. They do not know. They are not trained to identify these children. So initial 1 year generally goes in trying to blame the child, saying he is lazy, he is not interested, he doesn't want to do, he is good at other things, he is purposely doing it. So it's the most of question is, you are just trying to label his difficulty as laziness, or sometimes it says he's very arrogant. So another thing that I want to tell you is, these children who have dyslexia do have certain comorbidities. For example, they might have attention deficit disorder. Generally, this is what is accompanied. So when they're already having attention problem and they are dyslexic, imagine the kind of situation the child is. So I would like to explain to you very easily. When a child has attention deficit, I was made to understand. I did not know, because it's not theory that I'm talking. This is what I was made to understand by a lot of experts, where they told me, I said, when you talk to the child, everything is fine. Then why is it suddenly that he doesn't respond to me, he responds to somebody, and there's a lot of kind of kind of social awkwardness comes when the child is behaving. Then I was made to understand that this child, when he is receiving stimuli, what happens is he's responding to every stimuli that comes, and the first stimuli that he's responded is incomplete. Therefore, because of the speed of the thinking, he is just partially responding to a stimuli and going to the next one. For example, if somebody is calling him, "Yo, come here," he calls him by name, he says, "Come here." What happens is his thought is, I have to go take bread from the cupboard. So in this case, what he does is he's more responding to a number of stimuli in the brain. Therefore, there is a question of some kind of social awkwardness. Now, this is one problem which is maybe associated with dyslexia. So the other problem may be sometimes children with dyslexia also have low self-esteem. I'll tell you how and why. So here, the usual psychological, or I won't call it, it's not a big psychological problem. Usual kind of problems that they have is, emotional problem that they have is, first thing is, they have a very, very low self-esteem. Now, why does this happen? See, all of us, when we face success, we feel great, we feel good. And this dyslexic child, you please understand, has not understood himself. First, let us try to understand that the child himself or herself has not understood his difficulty. He is a puzzle to himself. He himself doesn't understand. Why is it yesterday I was able to do it, today I'm not able to do it? Why is it that teacher shouted at me yesterday, today she's saying I'm good? So he himself is in a kind of state of confusion because he himself hasn't understood his problem or hasn't understood to take charge of the problem because he's too young. And then here, next thing that what happens is, due to the next problem that is, here most probably his self-esteem is low because all of you know what is self-esteem, where you feel worthy about yourself. We feel worthy when we accomplish something. We develop low self-esteem when we do not accomplish as expected by others. So please understand, these children are doing their best. This is a message that I want everybody to get. When you're telling a dyslexic child is not performing, please understand you are wrong. Everybody wants to succeed. This is a thing that's in every child. Even this child is putting all his effort to give his best. If whatever he can do, he's trying to do his best to do it. So now what happens is, the next thing that happens here is, so he tastes success and failure, and when this is happening, there is a sense of, unhappiness, low self-esteem. Then next thing that happens is, his self-regard goes. See, here what happens is, he is mixing with different people. Now let me take first the school situation. Self-esteem, school situation, dyslexic child. When the child is in the school, and first thing is, he sees other people successful and he doesn't understand why he is not succeeding. First thing. Second thing is, as usual, we have this comparison. Comparison is natural and which cannot be avoided. But for this child, he is not even made to understand that I am not competing with them, because he is not in the same level as far as his academic performance is concerned. So as parents, as special educators, as psychologists, we should get this very clear. This child is not in competition with the rest of the children. So once this hits everybody who is dealing with the child, most of the problem will be solved, because our expectations would be to understand that this child is doing his best, he has his problem, how can we help him? So in school, what happens is, I've got experience where this child would go to school, will be there, and see, you know what happens in school, we have two types of people, one who perform very well and one who don't perform. The teachers may ignore the ones who perform very well because they know they can do it. And those who don't perform, again, they say they're lazy, they don't like it, they don't want to do it. And the other group that is in between are the ones who ask questions and all these things. But these children, do not fall into any of these categories, because not that they cannot perform, not that they are lazy, but they are not taught to perform. The problem is that they're not taught to perform. So once we understand that, and the child is also made to understand that, things will become better. So this is as far as self-esteem that's concerned in the school. Here what happened was, there was a child who was going to school, would happily go to school, would happily go to school, and once he goes to school, regular in school, full attendance, everything. And what happened in class? Nothing. Nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. Why? They were ignoring him. See, here what happens is, when the child is already fighting a battle which is very, very difficult, and when people are ignoring rather than encouraging, another problem arises. This leads to a problem of isolation and withdrawal. So what happens is, when they are isolated, why do we get isolated? Anybody? When we have negative feelings, because we want to sit and brood about it. After brooding about it, what is the next thing that we do? We have a low self-concept, low self-esteem, and then we have a negative outlook to the world. So this is more devastating than anything. For example, they don't have anything to look out. They are saying, I am not good in school, teachers ignore me, nobody understands me, I want to do well, I know I can do well, I need the right help, and then nothing is happening the way I want to. So he loses next hope. The other problem that is fear of failure. Even as normal people, we fear failure. So I'll always try to, when I teach my students, I tell them, most of the time is that we fail because, not that because we're not capable of doing, we fail because we are not what I'm trying to say, we are not able to, 1 minute, there's some distraction. Okay, we are not failing because we're not able to do, but fear of failure. So this fear of failure is the only thing that stops you to perform. So please understand, a child who is erratic in his success, today I do well, tomorrow I may not do well, yesterday teacher praised me, today she shouted at me, imagine his level or his sense of failure. His sense of failure would be the maximum. This is one more thing that I would like to say. Next thing is, in a peer group, they have a problem in communication. As they have problem in sequencing for reading or writing or spelling, you should understand that they have problems even for sequencing in thinking and in organizing events. So this is something that I'm only talking about the behavior part of it rather than the academic part, because that is my concern. So when these children are trying to act this way, in the sense they are inconsistent, they are not able to communicate because, as I told you, their problem in sequencing. So I would give, there's one good example that I will tell you as I'm going, where the child is having difficulty in communication, where he's not able to put the event first one before or one after. So when he's trying to get into trouble, he's not organizing the events, and he's again blamed for it. So that again becomes another problem. So after talking about self-esteem, let us go and talk about what happens to his fears. The fears would be, first thing is fear of failure. Fear of failure is, 1 minute. Fear of failure is a strong tendency towards perfectionism. See, all of us have a strong tendency to perfectionism, in the sense that all of us want to do well, and this child can't do the minimum. And because of the pressure from school, from parents, from friends, he thinks he has to give the best. So the pressure of being perfectionist is more for him than normal children. Understand that. This child is not doing well. He's not able to do well. All are saying you have to do well, and he thinks he has to be perfect. See, whereas the other child may say, okay, it's enough. If I do this, it's enough. But for this child, it's always climbing uphill. Next thing is, even before the child is preparing for the exam or the test, he is exhausted. Please understand this. It's not the question of not preparing or no willingness to prepare. The exhaustion comes because of the anxiety. The anxiety is, tomorrow I have an exam. how am I going to do? He's so preoccupied with the thought of how he is going to do, rather than how I'm going to prepare for my exam. So you understand already it's not a normal examination anxiety like other people have. This child is so sure of failure or doesn't know whether he'll fail or succeed. See, at least normal children will say, okay, I'll get 50 marks, I'll get 60 marks. But for this child, I don't know whether I'll write. I don't know whether I'll remember. I don't know how the teacher is going to treat me tomorrow. Will they laugh at me if I fail? Already last time I failed. The next time, oh, last time I got good marks. Maybe I got 60. Will my teacher expect me to get 70 today? So the question is, he has so many questions in his mind even before preparing for his exam. And then another thing is, as anybody, we want to deny or delay. This is what we generally do. So these children, when they're really going to face an examination situation or facing some kind of situation, because of fear of failure, they start to deny, or they start to avoid or delay. Three factors that they try to do. So when they're doing this, what happens next is that they will start trying to withdraw because only a fear of failure, not that they cannot achieve. Again and again I'm trying to insist saying the point, they are not performing not because they can't achieve, but because they are scared to even try to achieve. Next thing is, as I told you, the next fear is continuously to be exposed as I am very, very inconsistent in my performance. If somebody keeps on saying, okay, I don't know what he's going to do tomorrow, maybe he did well today, and this kind of inconsistency in his performance, it becomes tremendous pressure for him when he's going to do a new activity. So this is an added kind of feeling of attending an exam or a test. See, when I'm talking about exam or test, please understand, for him every moment is difficult because he has certain other kind of comorbidities with dyslexia. We've done two projects. One was done very well by my student called Archika, and one was a PhD done by my student called Ganesh. They have done excellent work, sincere work. You will not believe it. They did so much work that I can say that work is really authentic work, where they stayed with them for 3 months, 6 months and worked. So when they were doing it, I mean, they came up with so many things which was really unbelievable, where they said that these children are really motivated. These children are the ones who need to be attended to in a very, very different way. Then he says that next thing is rejecting a promotion because you are afraid of not living up to it. So here again, what happens is, as they say that these children in many other foreign countries that I've heard is, or in special schools which we have here is, they don't belong to a specific class. They go, if they're good in English, they go to say 7th standard in English, 7th standard class in English, grade say 3, or they go to grade 1 in mathematics if they're low, and they go to grade 4 if they're good in social sciences. But during a typical classroom situation, they are faced with the same amount of stress or the same amount of syllabus which a normal child will do, but this child may not be able to compete. So why do we say, first and foremost, I would like to, as I remember now, what most people do is, when they identify that a child has dyslexia, first thing they do is, let us change them from central board to state board. Let them change the school. Maybe the teacher is prejudiced. Maybe we will have to find another way. I will just try to tell you with experience, I'm telling you, changing schools or changing boards may not be so helpful as you really try to give them some remedial kind of help. Because here, remedial help, please understand, can be just for 1 or 2 years. Here, it's not only for reading, writing, it is for their behavior also. Here, what happens is, because of their academic failure, they are exhibiting a lot of behavioral malfunctions, I could call it. It may be too strong, but they exhibit inappropriate behavior. For example, temper tantrum, shouting, screaming, getting into conflicts, then not adjusting, complaining, lying. Sometimes even to prove the point that they're good, they go into stealing. You understand, lot of small problems they get into because of their incompetency in studying. So that the point is, one of the research which was done by my student was to understand the three things: behavioral skill, social skill, and performance. And we've come out with a model also. I'll share it with you later, where we found after 6 months study very clearly that if their behavioral skills and social skills are attended to, automatically their academic performance also improves. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, this is a circle, it's a vicious circle. You do this, that becomes better. When that becomes better, the next one becomes. For example, if I'm appreciated for my good behavior, then I'm interested in studying. If I do well in, if my friends, or if I'm able to play with my friends, then even they are going to help me while I'm studying. They're not going to criticize me, or they're not going to try to find fault with me. So these are the type of small problems that they have in school. The next thing is, what I would want to say is, frustration in school is one thing that I want to talk to. Frustration is what all of us get. What is frustration? You don't get what you want, in very simple words. So this child, imagine this child is sitting whole day in the class and he's not able to perform. People are not responding, or people are trying to respond negatively, or people are ignoring, and he is just dying to get out of a place where he's most uncomfortable. He just says, let me get out of this place. And there again, you know the problem. He cannot, or he is unable to show his anger or frustration on the teacher or anything. And if he shows, then again, we're not going to understand. He's not angry with you. He's angry with himself that he's not able to do what is expected. So please let us try to understand. This is something again I've learned. When a person, just for general people, when a person is doing something, you please understand or tell yourself, I like him, but I did not like what he did. That should be your message to anybody you're dealing with. So once when you get that idea clear, then the question of bringing about change is easy. When you say, I don't like you, the resistance becomes more. When you call them and say, no, beta, I like you, the point is, this is what you have to change. So the approach itself should change there. So now my next thing that I was wanted to say is this frustration in school. So this child is frustrated, and again, he's not happy. Their whole day he may not be happy. There may be remediation classes that he goes for. Many schools now encourage it. There are psychologists. All that is happening. I'm not trying to talk about the system at all. I'm talking about a child's experience. So this child comes home. So do you think what will happen as soon as he comes home? Sometimes, or most of us say, what happened in school? What did your teacher tell you? Did you did you do all that the teacher told you? Did you fill in did you complete your homework? Did you copy the classwork? My God, this is the last thing that he wants to hear when he comes home. Why? Because I had enough of it the whole day. I don't want it anymore. So this is the fear. And he comes here thinking freedom at home. Nobody is going to tell me read, write, spell, do mathematics. Nobody is going to tell me, at least for a while. So this is for people who are listening. Give them that half an hour, 1 hour. Don't talk to them what happened in school today. He is going to come and tell you if something good is going to happen. He is going to come and tell you automatically. If something that is unpleasant is going to happen, if he's not going to tell it immediately, and he's going to tell it a little later, because he's a child still, and he wants assurance. He wants people at home to tell him, nothing wrong, beta. It's okay. We understand that there's difficulty that you're having. We'll try to overcome it. This is what he wants when he comes home. He doesn't want again somebody to say, do this, do that, do that. Okay, we have to do that. We have to help him, but the timing is very, very important. And you know what happens? The best person at home he can show his frustration is his mother. Why? Because his mother understands. You know why she understands this? She understands that this child is having a pain. This child is having pain, and he can only show it on me. But sometimes what happens is, again, as parents, I'll tell you, we are also under pressure. What is your son doing? How is he doing? Our mental health is equally affected as much as the child's mental health is affected. So you want to prove to the world, okay, he has disability, but he will perform. He will do this, he will do that. So what happens is, he wants to reduce the anxiety by trying to get some kind of solace from you, whereas you are yourself anxious, not knowing how to handle the situation. So here I want to tell you a small thing, that let us try to accept this with experience. I'm saying, let us try to accept the world is not going to end tomorrow. We have lots of time in life. There's lots of time where let us try to give them their time, give them their space to go according to their needs, wants, motivations, strengths, abilities, the kind of environment that they get. That's also very important, right? We can say different things. Are we providing all that he needs or she needs? No, we may not be able to do it. We may be able to do it for one day, we may not be able to do for another day. So this is the next thing that I would like to discuss. This is what happens. And next thing is withdrawal. As I told you, they try to withdraw, and they try to go in, and most of the time you see that this child either shows a kind of superior behavior or withdrawal. So he can be a bully in college, because he wants to show somewhere I have control. Please understand, all of us are going through this struggle. All of us, however old we are. What is anger? Anger is nothing but, when do you get angry? When you lose control. So what do you do when you lose control? The best thing that you do is, when you lose control, is you try to shout, you try to scream, you try to get the situation under control. For simply, when you're taking class, when the students are not listening to you, the first thing that you do is, first thing that they're not listening, I try to check, saying, maybe I am not giving enough to get their concentration. And then what do? I take my failure and shout at the children, saying, don't shout in class, keep quiet. The failure could be that I am maybe not able to get their attention. Okay. The next thing that I like to discuss is withdrawal. Then temper tantrums. So temper tantrums, we know it happens for everybody. It is very natural and it is there. But these children have more of it, because for them every day is a struggle. I'm underlying this word, it is a struggle. It is a struggle because they don't know what's their tomorrow is going to be. They don't know how they are going to perform. They don't know how much they are going to remember. They don't know what mood the teacher will be. The teacher will, for sometimes she may have the tolerance of saying that I will deal with her, especially in a normal classroom setup. So I'm talking about normal. That's why we recommend. In fact, I'd say, if you find a child who is having a problem, don't think twice. Take them to a special school. Let them be there. Let their behavioral problems come under control. Let them get the confidence. Let them get their basic skills. Then they can come back. And we have all these open schools where they try to help us and encourage us. Then we talk about the next thing is, this is what I've seen. I will even give you more examples of why self-harm is very, very attractive to dyslexic children. You know what is it is? They are very, very secretive about their kind of behavior, because they feel very diffident. They feel very lost. They feel very shy. So now what is it that they can do is, either they want to get out of it, or get rid of the whole thing, or either by doing some self-harm, or either to do something to get the attention so that they get sympathy. See, when I was teaching a dyslexic child, when I asked the parent, they told them, you know what, something, I sit and teach them every day. What is it? Then that do you know what the child is going through? That was one sentence that changed many people's life when we were teaching them how to handle the child. Nobody stops and thinks what the child is going through. We are never in his shoes to find out what he's going through at all, because we are only trying to use him as somebody or something to perform. He is not a machine. I'm not saying he's not a machine in the sense he has feelings. He is highly sensitive. Why do they do? One way of dealing with their feelings and emotion is self-harm. We already don't know who's people who are depressed, people who are having a lot of problems, have this suicidal tendency. Why they're doing it? First reason is they're not able to handle it. See, everybody can handle everything if people around them understand. People around them understand and do not pressurize them, saying, yes, you have to do it. Again, I'm telling you, there is enough time for us to lead our life. You're all going to be 80 years old. 1 or 2 years in life is not going to make a big difference in a child's life. Rather, let him get out of it. Let him come to terms with reality. Let him get the skills to cope up with it and then perform. Because you know already, as Erickson has said, the first 2-3 grades in school, which is a formative period in school, his failure is directly related to his failure of performance in life. I'm sure all of us will agree to it, where you say that is very, very important. So when we are going to push him to fail continuously for a period of time, rather than treating his emotions, treating his needs, his wants, and we push him to do it, it's going to be difficult for both the parent and the child. Both are going to break one day. And ultimately, they have not achieved nothing. Okay. Next thing is allowing them to keep their real feelings under wraps to stop their anger or sadness spilling out. So what is another reason for self-harm is we do not let them express. Why? Because we ourselves are so anxious. What happened? What happened? Why you did not do? How do you not do? I thought you know all these things. Do we stop and ask why you could not do it? Did you ask him what could be? No. Did you ask? Find out the real reason. It could have been not. It could have been memory failure. It could have been distraction. It could have been anxiety. Hundreds of reasons could be there for him not to perform on that day. So when there are so many factors, even for a normal child, this child, it becomes more and more difficult. And then a self-secret, that is to keep himself separate from their external social self. So here what happens is, one reason is here I can tell you exactly what a child feels is, I am not what the society wants. I am somebody different, and the social self is what other people are wanting. So he is having a secret self, and the secret self, we are not trying to understand his secret self because we are not even listening to him. We are only expecting him to do something, and then he's not able to do it, and then he withdraws, he loses interest, and can also lead to self-harm and poor performance. And more than anything, please understand, if he is dyslexic or if he is having a problem, he is not the cause of it. In the sense, this is a problem that has come to it, and how are we going to deal with it? That should be our most important concern, rather than blaming him or blaming somebody and this and that is not going to solve a problem. Then 1 second. Give me 1 minute. I just take another. Okay. These children, another thing is, these dyslexic children are physically and maybe socially immature in comparison to normal children. When I say they are socially immature, what happens is, as I told you, they do not remember the sequencing of events. They do not know how to carry themselves. They sometimes are hyper. They sometimes are anxious, always worried what others will be saying, scared of labeling. When all these things are around them, then these children's behavior definitely exhibits some kind of social awkwardness. And then what happens is, they blame it for other reasons, and then they get into all wrong habits or whatever it is. Now, next thing that I want to say is, they have problem in oral language functioning. So again, I'm repeating, they have problem in oral language functioning, meaning to say, they want to say something, they mean to say something, but they say something different. The point is not that their thinking was wrong, not that the feeling was wrong, but when it came to behavior, it was different. Now, why it happens, what it happens, we'll try to understand is because, as I told you, for any action or for any thinking, language is involved. When language is involved, what happens is, you use language. For example, I'm moving my hands. So what do I do now? When I have to say something, I'm moving my hands, I have to use language to say that. So when I want to say something, when I'm not able to comprehend or get the right word to say, then I will have a problem in choosing the right word, and I will have some oral function, oral language malfunction also will be the next thing. Next thing is remembering, I told you, is again another problem. It takes long time for us to learn from mistakes. Okay, it is there for everybody, but it takes longer time for dyslexic children to learn from mistakes. I repeat it because these children, first and foremost, don't even realize it's a mistake. They think what they're doing is normal, like other children are doing. They have to be told in a way that this is not, this is, I can't call it a social deviant behavior. This is something is not expected. Therefore, they have to again come back and do the right thing. So here, when they're having problem in sequencing, memory problem, these children have problem even in trying to talk, trying to act. And sometimes what happens is they are labeled. They are the usual thing they call them as pathological liars. It's very, very strong word, or they call them psychotic. Because it's not that they chose to be it. It's just that there is some difficulty in their thinking process. There's some difficulty in their language processing. There's some other difficulty because of which they are undergoing this problem. So what they need is assurance. What they need is somebody to make them understand that this way people can't comprehend. See, the problem is they are comprehending themselves very well. Again, I'm telling you, of these intelligent dyslexic children can comprehend comprehend the situation very well. But when they're expressing what they're comprehending, there is a problem. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's not that they haven't comprehended. When they're expressing the comprehension, there could be a problem. Or sometimes, if they're having difficulty during comprehension, even again comprehension language is used. During comprehension, again, if they're having a problem, they are going to exhibit some kind of behavior that is not acceptable. Okay. So we are not going to label them anymore. So this is a very interesting study where there was a student who had scored a perfect score in his GRE exam. And he's coaching them for mathematics for all the students. And when anybody asks him his telephone number, he cannot remember. He cannot remember in sequence of phone numbers. But he is an expert in teaching mathematics, advanced statistics, and calculus to children. Now, then imagine what is it that he is going to go through. I'm not talking about his performance or anything. Imagine what is it that he is going to go through. People might call him if they don't understand what is happening. Yesterday he taught us well, today he can't remember his phone number. Or and what I'm trying to say is, this kind of different types of extreme behavior is going to be a roller coaster for him, because it's a journey where he himself is not knowing what is going to be his response. Then I told you anxiety is very, 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 very natural thing, being fearful about the situation and so on and so forth. And next thing is anger. Anger, I told you, mother is the best way to where they can get out of the anger. Another thing is there's tension between the expectation of the independence and the child's learned dependence, which causes greater internal kind of turmoil. Again, I'm trying to repeat it. Now, what happens is this child becomes a dependent child because he or she has some difficulties. After that, what happens is suddenly when this child becomes, say, 14, 13, 12, 13, we expect him to behave like an adolescent. But the child has not got the social skills or has not understood how to go about with different people, different groups, different ages, because still he's already fighting some battle which is losing one day and winning another day. So this time, when this transition period takes place, what I was told is these children may have a delay in maturity, in the sense, give them, we cannot call them that, give them more time. These children, when they get social maturity, say at the age of 15, even this problem slowly goes down. Why it goes down? Because they are able to understand the people around, they are able to deal with things around, and they're also by then understanding, okay, this is a difficulty that I am having. Because of this difficulty, people are not understanding, or I have to behave in a particular way, thereby I will be more successful. So this transition period, again, it becomes a very big internal conflict for them. Next thing is, the feelings underlying anger reaction makes us feel vulnerable and weak. Anger makes us feel at least momentarily strong and in control. As I already told you, when you're angry, you are just you imagine you are momentarily in control. So you understand this child is getting angry because he has reasons to get angry, because most of the time things are not under his control. Things are not happening the way people were expecting. Things are not happening the way he wants. See, after age, as I told you, everybody wants to succeed. This is something, it's inborn. When I was speaking to people, they told me everybody wants to win. I mean, when somebody told me that, no, it really struck. It's true. Yes. Why should anybody want to lose? Will anybody perform to lose? So even this dyslexic child is trying hard to perform to win. So this is something that we have to understand. Then he says that inevitably the emotional consequences are lack of confidence, low self-esteem, frustration, and depression. So this we have already dealt with because of your fear of failure. Then now what happens is, how do these people affect other people around? This is another thing that most of the time we don't look into. For example, if you have a dyslexic child at home or somebody who's there, most of the time what happens is, fortunately or unfortunately, it's a system in our culture. As soon as we meet everybody, we say, how is your child studying? Is he doing well? Oh, what marks does he get? I mean, this is the way we start our conversation, especially when parents of children of same age meet. It becomes very, very delicate for the parent and the child to handle it. So once you have already understood or identified that the child has this problem, or the mother has a child with this problem, kindly avoid asking this question, because you're no way helping them by asking them. You're only making them more anxious. And then what happens, this anxiety, the child shows it on the mother, or the mother shows it on the child, and then again is only going to affect their performance. Okay, if there's anything that you can do, you do it. Don't ask in front of the child. Don't try to give statements, proclaim, saying, don't compare also. Sometimes we have a problem, joint family or people. Now the system of joint family is gone. We have gone to another phase where we have flat system. So what is your child doing? Same school, same thing. When they try to compare, as educated people, I would like to say, when there is a child in a group who is dyslexic, don't even mention its academic performance at all. They don't like it. Please understand, I don't like what I'm not able to do. I don't like when somebody tries to tell me you're not good at it, you're not good at it. I know you can do better. Nobody likes it. Nobody's going to enjoy it either. So this way, you have to try to understand that also. Next thing is, as I told you, there is always a sense of confusion among these children, because they don't know what is there today, tomorrow, and they don't even remember what their yesterday would have been. Because every moment is a challenge for them. Every moment, you understand, they want to perform, and their people are not understanding. They're calling them lazy. And then what happens? Sometimes they withdraw, sometimes they go to self-harm, sometimes they say, I just don't care. They say, I don't care. Please understand, I can tell you with conviction, that they might orally say, I don't care, but inside they are suffering. They are in pain. They are in pain all the time, because they are not able to do what others are doing, not able to please their parents, because they feel, I am not able to live up to what my mother wanted or my father wanted. And that this scar will remain throughout if we do not understand them. And next thing is, they have problems in emotional regulation also, because they really don't know. They don't know what to do and how to handle it. Then these people are very, very sensitive people. Please understand, we think that only normal people can be sensitive, only people who can achieve can be sensitive. It's not true. These people are very, very sensitive, because they know that they are being watched all the time. Do you like somebody to be watched all the time? Do you like it at all? Definitely not. Because what happens is when they are having difficulties, out of concern, the so-called concern, we are always helicoptering parents, always going around them, finding what best we can do, how can we do, what can we do. But we sometimes we fail to understand what they need. I always say, don't give what you like, give what they want. Most of the time, what do? We like something, so we give them. We don't even want to know whether they wanted it or not. So same thing here is, this child's want will be very simple. This child doesn't want like another child saying, I want to take one big something latest, for example, a phone or some kind of gadget or anything. Child just wants somebody to say, hey, you're good, you did well today. I like it. I think we can do better. Together we can do. That's all this child wants. This child is very, very sensitive. This child just wants somebody to appreciate, somebody to accept. The word is accept. The point is, in the war of making him better, in the fight of trailing that he is going to be like any other normal child, we are only making the child suffer, and the parent is also suffering in the bargain. Then I said fear is there, fear of being found out. So this is another important thing when you are in a group, even when you're an adult, even when you're a child, if you are dyslexic, you have a fear of being found out. It's very, very painful because the child hasn't accepted that she is dyslexic. People haven't accepted that dyslexic is nothing but a small kind of difficulty in reading, writing, and spelling. So sometimes there could be kind of negative labeling to it, calling them stupid and all that. So they have this fear of being found out they're dyslexic. Imagine you're already suffering. Suffering is bad enough, and then you're suffering that people should not call me that. So if we are going to be open about the whole concept, saying that okay, just like people cannot hear, cannot see, cannot have difficulty, these children have learning difficulty. So this is not something that is abnormal. This is something that can happen. This is nothing to feel ashamed of. The next thing is, these children, again I told you, they have this fear of judgment and criticism. All of us, even like you come for a class, you come prepared and all that, we all learn in psychology, spotlight effect. We take so much of time, but nobody even bothers to know or even look at you properly or even try to remember what you've dressed and gone. But for this child, that problem of fear of judgment is there, fear of criticism is there. Fear of judgment itself is bad enough. What are they going to say? What will the ma'am tell me today? What will my mother say when I go home? What will others say? What will my cousins say? This fear of judgment, nobody likes to be judged, right? But we all like to be sitting on the seat of judgment and giving comments, because that's something where you are not the one who's judged. When you're judging, you are not the one who's getting judged. So you like that position very comfortably. But when this child is already going through trauma, when you're trying to be judging the child, it's going to be very, very difficult for the child. And even it fears that they're going to say something. He avoids situation. He withdraws. If somebody is going to talk about education, the child won't even come to the drawing room. He only becomes friends to people who are not going to talk to him about school. He'll only talk to people who are going to talk about some games, some kind of interest, hobbies, and all those things that the people are going to talk about. The next thing is fear of rejection. So this is always that is there for them. I'm not like others. Will people like me? Will people reject me? And this fear of rejection, I'll tell you, will go on till they pass through different phases of life. Unless people around understand that this is just a part, this is another small thing in his life that he had a little difficulty and he or she has come out of it. One thing that I want to tell you most importantly is when these children go through this phase where they have this fear of isolation, criticism, and all that, they also what they do is they try to do something either to get attention, and it is our duty, remember, to keep them always doing something to improve their self-esteem. Sir, or teachers, or whoever is listening, please take this seriously. When you are not doing what you're supposed to do from the age of 6 to 18, that is so-called studying, which is something that they say is the only way that people have to grow, his self-esteem is going to be low. So what exactly that you want him to do is keep his self-esteem going. How are you going to make his self-esteem going? Find out what he likes, what are his interests. How is it that he can feel good about himself? Okay, I can't read, I can't write, I can't spell. I can play cricket, I can swim, I can dance, I can play some instrument, I can do so many other things. So this falls on the parents or the support system that the child has to keep the self-esteem going. Please understand, again and again I'm telling you, we let us focus on this child as a child full of emotions which he cannot handle it because it's too much for him. People around don't understand it. That's worse, and that makes it worse. And then he doesn't even know how to cope up with it because he's struggling every day and he doesn't know when he's going to succeed. Succeed here is till a point where he can try to manage or can have that kind of self-confidence. Yes, I can do it. The next thing that happens with these children is, with this kind of thing, let me go to the next thing, is sometimes they have this panic attacks. We ourselves have panic attacks, right? When you're going to just to go meet somebody with all the so-called, we call ourselves normal, we get panic attacks. What will happen? How I'm going to talk today? What the people are going to say? All this is very natural. But for this child, it is hell. I'm using the word hell because this child is suffering moment by moment, not knowing how to handle it. The panic attack may be, for example, he can get anxious, he feels restless, has poor concentration, then even his incoherence while talking or presenting. So all these things, is because not that this cause of dyslexia is not the cause, it's not the reason. The fear dyslexic or how he handles situation is what is causing him problems. Next thing is, we have other kind of disorders. Then again, the self-image, we all have spoken about self-image for people with difficulties. Very difficult for them even to maintain a positive self-image because it gets blurred every other day. Today I'm successful, tomorrow I am not. Today somebody praises me, tomorrow somebody doesn't. And when such is the case, what kind of self-concept, what kind of self-esteem he would have? And then always there's a feeling of insecurity. Then he goes through embarrassment. He feels as if he's embarrassing his parents when he's not performing. He feels embarrassed before his peer when the teacher questions him. He feels embarrassed when all of them around are doing well. And why is it only me, I'm like this? The child, understand, when you're adult, maybe you're able to handle it better because you are saying, hey, this is what I am, this is how I will do. But the child is not even courageous enough, doesn't even have enough knowledge or experience to have a conviction to say, this is what I am. The state of this is what I am would come only maybe when he's 17 or 18. So imagine from the time of 6 to 18, he doesn't have the guts to say, this is what I am, take me for what I am. He's not able to say because he's made to believe you're going to become something great. People are all trying to push him to do something which he may or may not be able to do. So in this kind of situation, it becomes very, very embarrassing. Then he goes through a field of guilt. So this is another thing that we have to understand. As this child feels guilty. This child feels guilty. Why is it it's happened to me? Why is it that my parents have to go through this? Why is it I'm not able to have good friends? And here what happens is, these children are not able to even relate with people with the same difficulty because each one is in a tangent. Each one here is struggling to prove himself. And in this struggle, They don't know what they are doing. In this, they are trying to prove themselves. In the bargain, they're hurting somebody else. Again, I'm telling you, it is not intentional. These children are naive, wonderful, very, very kind, understanding, highly emotionally sensitive children, but which we fail to recognize. So if I think it's time, if you want me to continue, I'll continue. If you have questions, you can ask me. Whatever you say, Suresh sir.
Ma'am, it's an amazing inputs from our LD. I can see the comments over here. Even Facebook also, there are many of them are following and then they are sending text to me. It is an amazing. I think I have conducted a poll also. In the poll they said that we have to have more session with you, ma'am. Please, there is a request from me. I have to give few more sessions on the same topic.
Yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Veena, you can go ahead. Dr. Meena.
Somebody has questions, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. There are few of them are having. 1 minute, ma'am. Dr. Veena. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Ma'am, thank you so much for that wonderful session. And you have given lots and lots of insights for parents. What I liked about the session is the acceptance and appreciation to the child. That makes a huge difference. I do understand what it is like for a dyslexic child to have that acceptance and appreciation. I now request Tanisha Kadbanda to please go ahead with her question. We have a lot of participants with the questions. So,
welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am. It's really very informative session. I just want to know, like my daughter, she's in 9th standard present.
Yes.
Now, earlier I was not aware about this dyslexia and all, but when I got to know, I think when she was in 6th standard,
Yes, ma'am.
that she has some problem. So
Yes, ma'am.
what should I do in that case? Whom should I go for remedial classes or so? Can you guide me that how
Yes,
further
ma'am.
I can help her?
Ma'am, first and foremost, let us do an assessment to find out what is the degree of difficulty she has in learning. Sometimes remediation out of school, you don't have to pull her out of school if she can manage it. And then we need a proper assessment to be done first, ma'am. And first thing is, let us not find out every small single symptom to be quickly labeled as dyslexic. There could be some underlying problems also, which we have to diagnose. So I have a friend of mine. Maybe you can contact me later. I'll give my number also. Sir will share it, where you can meet them, and they do very good assessment, and they really try to tell you exactly how to go about it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next we have.
Actually, I tried. Yeah, sorry, ma'am. Can I continue?
Yeah, my number I can tell you, ma'am. It's 9444 333.
Okay.
Ma'am, we will share the number to the participants in the WhatsApp group.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Dear participants, any queries or any feedback, you can write to mywebinarfeedback@gmail.com. We have a few more questions. Ma'am, next question is from Nischay Davra. Nischay, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am, can you please go ahead with the question?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to know that my child is in 7th class. But ma'am, when I take interest with him study like reading, then he take interest. But when he has to do learning part, then he doesn't take interest. Ma'am, that is very, very great problem that I am facing. So I just want to know what I do, ma'am. That he doesn't have interest.
Ma'am, what I want to tell you is, when he's saying he's doing well, when you are there itself means to say he needs that one-to-one attention, ma'am. That's very clear.
Yes.
So he needs that one-to-one attention to do his work. So here again, I wanted to tell you people that these children need more of emotional hand-holding.
He doesn't take interest.
Ma'am, what I want to tell you is, yes. When he's saying he's doing well, when you are there itself means to say.
Ma'am, please go ahead. Please go ahead with the answer. Participants, kindly keep your mic on mute. Okay. Next question we have from Vani Maheshwari. Vani Maheshwari, ma'am, are you there?
Hi, yes, ma'am.
Please go ahead with
Good
your
evening,
question.
ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, my brother's daughter is also having the same problem, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now she is studying in 7th standard, but
Yes.
her age is 15, ma'am.
Okay.
So what suggest some way, ma'am, how to proceed
Ma'am,
to learn about?
if as a school identified her as dyslexic?
No, ma'am, but she's studying in normal school only, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. So we will do an assessment. I mean, I'm not going to do it. I have a friend of mine who does it. I'll put you on
But
to them.
we can identify she does not have any learning abilities, but she's interested in only just other habits, ma'am.
Yes, fine, ma'am. Fine, ma'am. Ma'am, you should be very happy that she has other interests.
Oh.
See, this is something as an eye opener for you. Don't look at it saying that she's not studying, she's interested in other things. You focus it the other way. She's very good in other things. Reading and writing she can do also. So the question of changing our focus is important.
Okay, ma'am.
So once you change your focus, we will try to find out whether she needs a testing, and that we put her to somebody, a friend of us or some team.
Some person, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Surely we'll do it, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
There's nothing to worry, ma'am. Nothing to worry. First and foremost, all of you be relaxed. The world is not going to end if a child is dyslexic. He will survive. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Vani ma'am. Thank you so much, Maya ma'am. Next question is from Pratibha Ilankovan. Pratibha. Okay. Yes. Next question is from Ananya Lakshmi. I think, ma'am, we will send the queries
Hello.
to you. Yes, Ananya Lakshmi. Yeah,
thank you, Dr. Veena, for allowing me to ask the question. Dr. Maya, this was an amazing session, and it was more of a narrative thing. You made us go through the stages of how this dyslexic child feels every day, and basically, and basically, I could really hear the children, like dyslexic child, say that please teach the way I can learn. I'm suffering every day. Give me more time. Everybody wants to succeed. I'm doing my best. Such an amazing
that is the learning. That is the learning.
Yeah, and also I learned that if behavioral and social skills are developed for these children, then academic also improves. Such a wonderful session, ma'am. I want to tell one thing where I knew a parent whose children are dyslexic, and that particular parent, she read a lot of story books to these children every single day. She took off her holidays, and she was working, and she did a lot of things, but she made sure that she read it every day, so the vocabulary of the children are really, really high. But the thing is, they can't remember at sometimes. They are adults now, but they can't remember. But their vocabulary is really high when compared to other classmates of them. So I would tell it's the parents also should have an thing to teach these children every day. So thank you so much for this amazing session, ma'am.
Thank you, Ananya. Thank you for your input. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maya ma'am. Now I request Ananya to give feedback and Akshay Lakshmi to give vote of thanks. Participants, keep supporting us. Your love and affection is what is keeping us going. We will have another wonderful session from Maya ma'am soon. Ma'am, we are looking forward for another session. I hope Suresh Kumar sir will arrange it in near future. Thank you so much, Ananya and Akshaya. The floor is open for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Maya. As I already told you, this was an amazing session, and you have done all the things that is possible to teach us what you have experienced for so many years. And it was an amazing session, and we would love to have your session more and more in this platform, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. It's my pleasure also, ma'am.
Okay, here, Akshay ma'am. Thank you so much for this thought-provoking session on what is LD children are going through. And we did learn a lot from you, where I guess we will be able to support the children with learning difficulties in coming days, most of us. And I wish there is a lot of awareness programs being conducted with such knowledge, I would say, because we do learn from books, but this is not the content what you are saying. So we really want you to be with us, where we can actually learn a lot from you, ma'am. And I would like to thank all the participants who are being benefited out of this highly touching session. And I would like to place my special thanks to American College Madurai and Dr. Suresh Kumar sir and team for this continuous relay of webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am. Please stay in touch.
Thank you so much, participants. Again, I'm saying please send your feedback and queries to mywebinarfeedback@gmail.com. We will definitely send your queries to the experts and get them answered. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maya, ma'am. Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you. I thank you all for this opportunity. And I will come again if you want me to.
Definitely, ma'am. We need help.
Thank
Sure,
you.
sure, sir. Sure, sir.